Why avoidants hesitate to commit to anxious people. This is one of the hardest dynamics in dating, and it's also one of the most misunderstood. Because when an avoidant hesitates to commit to an anxious person, people assume it's because the avoidant doesn't care or is emotionally unavailable on purpose. But for many avoidants, the hesitation actually comes from real repeated experience, not theory. So, they are very cautious on who they commit to. Many avoidants have already been down this road before in dating. They've been in relationships where they ask for space, time, or emotional room to process. And what happened next taught them something. They learned that even when someone says they understand space, most people don't really understand what space means to an avoidant. They don't understand how important it is, how long it might last, how often they need space, or how non-personal it actually is. At first, partners often say things like, "I get it," or "Take all the time you need," or "I'm fine with space." But then when the space actually happens, the avoidant pulls back to recharge or regulate. They go quiet, don't answer text messages. And that's when things start to fall apart. Once the distance shows up, the anxious nervous system starts to activate. The mind starts filling in gaps. Thoughts turn into questions. Questions turn into fear. And fear turns into suspicion. And if the anxious partner isn't truly healed, they start wondering if the avoidant is telling the truth. They wonder if they're losing interest, if they're pulling away for good, if there's someone else, or if they're cheating or lying to them. And this is where the avoidant's past experience really matters. Because many avoidants have lived through this exact cycle more than once. They've watched partners slowly become distressed during their need for space. They've seen reassurance stop working. They've felt pressure build. They've been accused of things they weren't doing. They've felt misunderstood, watched closely, questioned, and emotionally cornered. Not because the partner was bad, but because the partner was dysregulated and afraid. So over time, avoidants learned something painful but logical in their mind. When I need space, people get hurt. When I pull back, relationships fall apart. Eventually, they can't handle me. And once that belief sets in, commitment starts to feel risky. Because committing doesn't just mean love to an avoidant. It means responsibility. It means knowing that their natural way of regulating through space, distance, and slow emotional processing might deeply hurt someone who needs reassurance quickly. So instead of moving closer, they hesitate. Instead of committing, they pause. Instead of promising something they're not sure they can maintain without hurting someone, they hold back. This is why many avoidants feel safer in situationships. Situationships feel easier because they come with lower expectations, or at least that's what the avoidant thinks. They feel it's less pressure to explain space, less responsibility for someone else's emotional state, and less fear of being blamed for someone else's pain. In a situationship, the avoidant can regulate without feeling like they're failing someone. They can leave, return, slow down, or stay quiet without it meaning they're breaking a promise. To the anxious person, this feels confusing and painful even if it's a situationship, because emotions are still involved and it feels the same as a committed relationship to them. But to the avoidant, it isn't the same and it feels manageable. They feel they don't have to show up as they would in a serious relationship. And that's the part that confuses an anxious person. Even though the anxious may agree to the situationship, they still get attached while the avoidant stays detached. On the anxious side, it's important to understand something clearly. When an anxious person gets close, closeness isn't just emotional, it's physical, mental, and nervous system based. Connection regulates them. Love calms them. Consistency makes their body feel safe. Reassurance helps their nervous system settle. So when distance appears, it doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels unsafe. The anxious partner isn't always reacting because they're dramatic or needy. They're triggered. Their nervous system is wired to restore safety through reassurance and connection. They need to feel that their partner is still there and that they're coming back. When that feeling isn't there, their body stays activated. The longer there is silence or distance, the harder it is for them to calm down. That's when emotions grow stronger. That's when behaviors escalate. Not because they want to push the avoidant away, but because they're desperately trying to pull safety closer. This is why anxious partners ask questions. This is why they reach out. This is why they want clarity. This is why they struggle to wait. Waiting doesn't calm them. Waiting keeps them activated. But here's where the clash happens. Avoidants regulate through distance. Anxious attachers regulate through getting close. So, when an anxious partner reaches for reassurance, the avoidant feels overwhelmed. And when the avoidant gets their space, the anxious partner feels abandoned. Both people are trying to feel safe. They're just doing it in opposite ways. Now here's the part that really affects commitment. When avoidants meet someone who shows the same anxious behaviors as past partners, their nervous system doesn't start fresh. It remembers. It recognizes patterns. It anticipates the ending before it even begins. They expect that eventually the anxious partner will reach a point where they can't handle the space. They start to feel the reassurance won't be enough. Trust will break down. Accusations will start and pressure will increase. So instead of fully committing and risking that pain again, they hold back emotionally. They stay half in. They keep one foot out the door. Not because they plan to leave, but because they expect the other person will. In their mind, it feels safer to not fully get attached and relive the same ending. This doesn't mean anxious people are wrong, and it doesn't mean avoidants are incapable of love. It means both nervous systems are operating from survival and past learning, not present reality. Anxious partners often feel like, if you just communicated more, this wouldn't happen. Avoidants often feel like, if you could just handle space, this wouldn't happen. But neither one can simply get themselves into a different nervous system response. That's why this dynamic becomes so exhausting. The anxious partner feels like they're always waiting, guessing, hoping. The avoidant partner feels like they're always disappointing someone, hurting someone, or being misunderstood. Over time, the avoidant's emotional capacity gets maxed out. They stay longer than they should. They try harder than they can sustain. They avoid saying how overwhelmed they really are because they don't want to hurt the other person. And sometimes, they can stay longer to avoid hurting the anxious partner. And eventually, when their system reaches its limit, they pull away suddenly, or end things completely, or out of nowhere. And the anxious partner is left confused, asking what went wrong. What went wrong is that both people were asking the other to regulate something they hadn't learned to regulate themselves yet. Avoidants need to learn how to communicate their need for space without disappearing, and without assuming getting close to someone equals pressure. Anxious attachers need to learn how to self-soothe on their own, without needing constant reassurance to feel okay. Without that healing on both ends, the cycle repeats. The anxious overgives and waits. The avoidant stays until they can't. Capacity runs out. The relationship ends. This is why commitment feels so heavy in this dynamic. not because there's no love, but because there's fear on both sides. Fear of abandonment, fear of hurting someone, fear of being too much, fear of not being enough. Now, in order to heal, this isn't about blaming one side. There is no pointing fingers here when both attachment styles come into the relationship needing to heal. You're not better than the other because you love harder and chase it. You're not better than the other person because you're independent and feel you don't need anyone to regulate. Both of you want love. It's about understanding that love alone doesn't regulate nervous systems. Awareness does. Boundaries do. Learning how to calm yourself does. Because relationships aren't meant to feel like pressure or panic. They're meant to feel like safety for both people. And until both partners can create safety within themselves, commitment will always feel risky, no matter how strong the connection is.